Hello, Ward.
Hey Jay, how are you?
Well, I'm doing very well. Yourself?
I'm good. Oh, you're heading
So,
to Europe, I gather, huh?
yeah, no, I'm going over to play with this group that's trying to do agile management.
Yeah, to change the world, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, why not? And the reason I thought of you was just it's so amazing what has happened with agile development since you guys kicked it off. I thought, well,
Yeah.
what lessons should we learn? In terms of what was it about that meeting that it gave it such
hmm
staying power? And just anything you can share, I would be delighted.
The first thing to remember is that was kind of the apex of a decade of kind of inspired and daring reform.
Okay.
Starting with our effort to catalog patterns of practical experience. So the software patterns movement really started that, and that was really based on. I trace it back to Alan Kay and his belief that we use computers foolishly, and that his strategy was to study the kids in computers because he
Yeah.
figured every adult was already corrupted in their understanding of what a computer could or should do. So they were reasonably innovative. In fact, Alan Kay was disappointed in Smalltalk 80 in the sense that it was too practical and not out there far enough. But kind of the beginning of the software engineering era and what people in software engineering were asking of developers just didn't seem consistent with what this great piece of software wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, 10 years. The group that came together, had they been involved with each other for most of that 10 years?
I think that particular group, there were certainly people who knew what was going on, but the extreme programming was kind of the leader of the pack, and
Yeah.
then there were a bunch of also rans, and the people who pulled that together were more familiar with the also rans, which were leaders in their own time, but weren't getting a lot of traction, and said, let's get all of these people because there's a common theme, and that is to be not so process heavy and to focus more on delivering software and less on checking off items on a checklist.
How did it, after the meeting, catch fire? I mean, I know I've visited the basic site so many times, and I love its simplicity. But I'm sure there
Yeah.
are other things that are going on there too.
Well, that's part of that is my influence. I host that site, and I knew that. I mean, we all knew. When that stuff went up on the whiteboard, we said, "Oh my gosh, this is so simple, and it so completely expresses what we all believe." And so I stood on a chair and I took that picture. That is, in the background. And then when time came, I said, well, we should have a site that just summarizes what's on the blackboard. And I said it should be a poster. It should look like a poster.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'll make the site.
So is that
But
what 14 people are involved?
I don't know. I lose track, 16, 17. And there were people who were invited who didn't bother to come, and there were people who probably should have invited that didn't come. But the event was really kind of an accident that was bound to happen. Because if it didn't happen then, it would have happened a year later, or it would have happened and not been executed so cleanly. Because we were all steeped in what we cared about, and and we all were people who were flogging our own approach. Right? There's a saying in among methodologists that the basic message is "be like me." Right. So you have a successful project, and you say, "Wow, that worked pretty well. Let me think about what I did." Everybody should do that.
Yeah.
And then you're a methodologist. Anyway, we didn't even call it a man. I mean, when we wrote it on the board and I took the picture and we wrote it down and we said, yeah, this is really important. We didn't even call it a manifesto.
Hmm.
You know, I can't, we might have once or twice or something called it a manifesto, but on the last day we said, this is important. We got to go together, go forward together. This is something, a banner we can wave. And I said I'd make a site, and we decided that. Well, then we said, well, what should we call it? Because we were up to then we were calling ourselves the lightweight methodologists. Something derogatory, right? But we're methodologists interested in lightweight methods, or whatever we called ourselves. It was a mouthful, and then we spent some time picking the term agile. In my mind, agile or agile methodology or extreme programming or all this stuff is stuff that is a division of responsibilities between the people who have the ability to do something and the people who have the need for it, the customer and the developer, how they're going to divvy up responsibilities and make long-term continued progress. A lot of what we do in agile and agile software development, and certainly extreme programming, is focused on having a kind of self-managed team of highly motivated people whose goal is to deliver value routinely to a customer with the least amount of effort. Have a great afternoon.
You have a great afternoon. Have a great holiday season.
You bet.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.